Anyway, in this video we're going to do a topic discussion, and today we are going to discuss the ideas behind impossibility. The way I see it, and the question I would like to ask you fellow YouTubers, is something really impossible, or is it rather in progress? Now I believe it's in progress, and now that is the argument I will drive home into your heads. Being the optimist that I am, I believe human beings are complex individuals, and for me the meaning of life is to evolve as much as we can, and I'm not sure whether the rest of you share that view, but I like to keep it quite simple and succinct, and yeah, I think that our purpose on this planet is to evolve, just like that. And in order to evolve as much as we can, we need to really expand our intellectual capabilities. Whether we do that through Socratic discussion or different forms of education, possibly, in turn we can really tackle the complex questions of the universe. Once we understand this idea, I honestly believe that it will become far easier to discover new creations that we once thought were actually impossible. So another thing that I would like to say is that we are talking about ancient civilizations in this episode, and what I want to use is the law of attraction in conjunction with that, because I honestly think that it has been a prevalent concept throughout all of ancient civilizations and in civilizations in general. It's simply not just a theory that has risen in the modern day. I really believe that ancient societies thought about the law of attraction, especially in esoteric Western and Eastern traditions. However, whether or not they thought about it or not has no bearing on the fact that it was still very much widespread and existing behind every discovery. So looking at ancient history, whether it be the Romans or the Greeks, the Egyptians or the Assyrians, what were once thought to be impractical dreams and ideas, soon through hard work and dedication truly manifested into their physical equivalent. For example, the first thing that springs to mind is the ability to fly, discovered by the Wright brothers in 1903. Now, if someone were to put forward this idea in an ancient society at that given moment in their time, do you think they would have a leg to stand on? Do you think that they would be met with criticism and ridicule for having such unrealistic ideas that are not founded on any evidence? Or, you know, it's disillusional thinking. I think that's what the consensus view of the opposition would be. I mean, rightly so, for how could it be, you know, practical or even feasible for a society to learn how to fly when they don't even have access to, you know, technology, power, or electricity, for example? But fast forward to 1903 and we have the Wright brothers, who have a grandiose vision of learning how to fly, and they achieved that through hard work and turning a desire into an obsession, and to the point where, you know, they actually created the first plane. So this leads me to the ultimate question, which I think is impossibility an unfounded truth? And I think it really is. I think that there is no such evidence to support the claim that something is impossible. I mean, if we look at the evolutionary timeline, it becomes convincingly apparent that what may be considered impossible at one moment in time may well be a reality at another stage of evolution. A civilization at a higher stage of evolution has far more potential to realize new scientific breakthroughs. They will be able to reach the capacity of their intelligence, and they will be able to push the heights of technological power. So impossibility is really a blank statement, and I really think that the near future will prove that. I mean, the amount of discoveries that we'll be able to make in the near future will be absolutely incomprehensible. And if you don't believe that, then, you know, history speaks for itself. Even if you look back 20 or 50 years ago, it's been absolutely remarkable. So now allow us to move on to the ancient civilizations, and most importantly, Rome under the Flavian dynasty. You see, the Romans had an idea to create the glorious Colosseum, and it is a token of advanced Roman technology at the end of the day. For one, they had complete dedication, visionary insight, and the right amount of self-belief to actually see it through to its creation. They were pioneers of their time. They were willing to take risks. They believed that they held the keys of the way of the future. And more importantly, they saw in themselves the absolute authority to rule over man. Now with Rome, all of this started with an idea, and it came under the emperor himself. He had an idea to create a form of entertainment called gladiatorial combat, in which the games would be held in the Colosseum. The kind of technology that was used in an underdeveloped society like Rome, in comparison to modern times of course, is really worthy of recognition, because if we were to replicate that using the tools that they did in the modern day, it would be a highly difficult task. I don't think we'd achieve it. And even if we did use the modern tool making materials, it still would be an incredible feat regardless. So we have to give credit to the Romans for that creation. So I've just realized that I've given you two prime examples of the law of attraction working for not only the benefit of society but also corruption. Besides the creation of buildings, the Romans saw in themselves absolute authority. They truly believed the notion that they were leaders of men, and this manifested. This powerful mindset enabled them to usurp power over their neighbouring allies, and more importantly, expand across the Mediterranean. I don't think there is a single better example than Rome, because Rome was a small city founded on the Palatine Hill, and despite all the obstacles that lay ahead of them, through self-belief and utter determination, rose to the forefront of humanity, and they saw in themselves the ability to dominate the rest of the known world. That is essentially the law of attraction manifesting in the most destructive way possible for the Romans and for the rest of the world, quite frankly. And now another example has sprung to mind, which comes in the form of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was perfectly engineered for world domination. Now you're probably thinking, how can someone be engineered for world domination? And I'll tell you right now. Not only was he tutored by Aristotle, who essentially laid it on the table for him and said, where would you like to conquer? He also had a sense of divine birth drilled into him from his mother at an early age. To a greater extent, he believed it was his sole duty to bring vengeance upon the Persians, being the son of Zeus, or thinking that he's the son of Zeus. To some extent, these ideas embody the same traits as narcissism, but what I believe is that the real roots lie in the law of attraction. Those visions and affirmations became glues in his mind and, manifested on a grand scale. He won battles, despite being outnumbered 10-1, simply because he thought himself superior, in every sense of the word, as a military leader or even genetics. This belief, I think, enabled him to think outside of the box, thus creating grand strategies and maneuvers on the battlefield. What I think we can take away from this is that something that may seem entirely impossible, like world domination, world domination, what an example. But I think it is even more indicative of the processes behind the law of attraction, because perhaps it's more unlikely than scientific creations. I'm not sure on that one. Leave your comments below as to what you think about that. So what about the world we are living in today? Who are the pioneers that helped shape the future of technology? Well, let's take a look at Thomas Edison, for example, who discovered the light bulb. He was a man who, had a dream and a desire and passion for scientific experiments. And it was that desire, that burning obsession, which really fueled his experiments and thus enabled him to actually discover the light bulb, which is, just indicative of the law of attraction. Hard work and dedication really does turn into something if you put your mind to it. He absolutely adored scientific experimentation. However, as far as I'm aware, he was no genius in school. Far from it, in fact. But since then, we have really gone further in our technological advancements, and it really begs the question, what is impossible? Years later, we see the invention of the television, and then the creation of the mobile phones. And now we're living in an age where the main form of communication is via the internet. The freedom of information has really reached unbelievable heights, where in a click of a button, one can learn and discover anything they wish. At the end of the day, what is thought to be impossible is simply not a truth, but rather a belief in the eye of the beholder. It is a belief that is rooted in self-doubt, as opposed to self-belief, funnily enough. And I think that whichever you choose to exhibit in your life will be the determining factor on your success. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. It was an interesting topic that I felt I should voice my opinion on, simply because, you know, the idea behind what is impossible and what isn't is really surrounded by myths and rumours, because you hear people always talk about things as being impossible, when in fact, I don't, want to discredit these people, but from my point of view, it seems as though they are exhibiting self-doubt as opposed to self-belief. And once we start to show and express our own true emotions with regards to our passions, then we will start to see ourselves grow as individuals and get closer to attaining our goals. So at the end of the day, it's a lesson for all of us, and it is an optimistic message, and it really opens the door to new opportunities. And as long as you keep an open eye and a keen eye for new interests, and you approach them with all your heart and all your desire, I'm sure you will succeed in life. So there's my message of inspiration today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, because I really want to keep making these videos for you guys, because you seem to enjoy them. So take care, bye bye.